Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending our webinar today. My name is Jeffrey Smith, Director of Study.org. Today we're going to talk about pandemic parenting, what schools should know, and what schools can do to help parents. This is a topic that we want to make sure that everybody can discuss and come up with ideas and so forth. Today is going to be a participation webinar. Please do in your chat feature, participate with us. So in your chat feature, make sure you're replying to all panelists and attendees. That way everybody, not only just the panelists, can see your comments, but everybody can. And so just feel free to use that chat feature. So we want to thank you for attending. Again, my name is Jeffrey Smith. I'm the founding director of Study.org, also the founding director of the Substitute Teaching Institute of Utah State University. And we also have on the call Jessica Smith, our Chief Education Officer, as well as Robyn Copa she's a parenting coach at Parenting Magic and is a teacher as well. And we'll hear from her and her perspective on what good things are happening or what suggestions she has. So today we're going to be talking about working with parents during this pandemic and how schools can help. This is only the start of the discussion. We want to make sure that we are just always talking about this and coming up with new ideas. It changes weekly with the reopening, with the closures and then reopening and what might happen in the fall. So all we can do is talk and come up with ideas. Well, what I've done is I've gone out to try to find what parents are saying, what teachers are saying about the distant learning in the last little while, and we want to recover some of those and then have some ideas as well. What we have found, parents are saying that share fewer but high quality resources rather than overburdening parents with information that they have to sort through. You know, they get a lot from a lot of different teachers, and so they want to make sure that what you're sending them is very succinct, and so they know exactly what it is without them having to prepare a lesson plan, for example. If parents can be told exactly what they need to do to follow up on the learning, that's helpful. Focus on communicating clear and concise guidelines. Also, it would be helpful for teachers to give personalized goals for the students to focus on. It's just some of the comments that are out there. A more structured schoolwork routine. And we'll talk a little bit about that later, but that's what the parents are asking for. Provide essential guidance for parents as they wade through the seemingly endless amount of advice and at-home learning resources online. So it is challenging. They just overnight became homeschool parents, and so it's a challenge for both the teachers and the parents. But be mindful, and so write it as if you're the parent who are receiving the information. This was interesting statistics, however. An overwhelming 88% of parents approve of the job their children's teachers are doing during the coronavirus. So that's awesome. If parents are saying that they're pleased and with what's going on, since all of us were thrown into this, that's really, really good statistic. Here's some other concerns that they've had. The biggest is the children are missing out on socializing with other students. Being at home is challenging. Now that we're opening up a little bit, that'll help alleviate that. And I know we're at the end of the school year. And so we are talking about what have we learned if we're going to have to be doing this distance learning at home this fall or sometime during the winter. But this is a big concern, and how can we help eliminate this? They're seeing their teachers in person, which is a good thing. Glad they miss their teachers. And so you can see there the different things of parent concern. Interesting on this survey that the bottom one, my children do not have access to computers or technology. Only 6% said that. So that was pretty amazing how little, at least the responses that were given on this survey. Now these are parents' concerns. They are either very satisfied or somewhat satisfied with the way their children's school has been handling the instructions during the school closure. So that's where 84% for the upper income, 83 for middle, and 82 for lower income, but pretty consistent across the board. They are, meaning parents, are very concerned or somewhat concerned. So you can see 57% are very or somewhat concerned about their children falling behind as a result of the disruptions. But notice the lower income bracket. That jumps quite a bit. So upper and middle seem to be handling it okay, but the lower income parents of lower income homes tend to think that they're concerned about their children falling behind. So we have to be very aware of that. Their children have received online a lot or some online instruction, so that was quite high. Lower income haven't, and so there was a significant discrepancy between the two. That they or other adults in their household are providing a lot or some additional instructions or resources. So are pretty consistent between the three economic groups. Yeah, so they are receiving additional work or additional assistance from home by the parents. And so by supporting the parents, giving them tools, that's helpful. We've all been in the situation where our child comes home and needs help with math, and it's a new math, not the ones that we learned, and we go, oh, well, so we have to learn it in order to be able to help them. That's a kind of a challenge all the way around, and so we have to be careful that we help parents help their students. Now, everything that we do at steady.org and Parenting Magic are based on principles, and principles for human behavior. Now, I want to introduce this just before we introduce Robyn and what she's going to talk about. This is why we're going to talk about what she has to do is because it's based on these principles. One principle of human behavior, number one, is behavior is largely a product of its immediate environment, meaning the classroom or the home or the situation where the child is in or the person is in. Change the environment, you change the behavior. And so by moving the learning from the classroom home has made a big impact on the behavior. And so how can we then change that environment at home? Not the behavior of the student, but the environment, and then the students and children will behave appropriately. So as we talk about moving this home, how can we do that? Behavior is strengthened or weakened by its consequences. We know we do what we do because what happens to us. And so that's true with these students who are at home, what's going to happen to us, to them, and they will, it'll either strengthen their behavior or weaken it on a particular behavior. Number three, behavior ultimately responds better to the positive than to negative consequences. So we want to be positive, more rewarding than we are punitive in our reaction to what they are doing. So we want to be positive. Number four, whether a behavior has been punished or reinforced is known only by the course of that behavior in the future. So we have to monitor. See, a reward for one might be a punishment for another, or vice versa. And so we have to be cognizant of that and work with students with that. Now, as we go into the next section with Robyn presenting this, see how this how this is based on these principles and the decisions that we make as a school in helping parents. If we can support these principles, then we can make it a much better learning experience for our students. So let me have Jessica introduce Robyn.
Oh, okay, thank you. I just unmuted myself. Thank you for having me. Yeah, my name is Robyn Copa. I have taught physics and chemistry for 5 years. I've taught part-time kindergarten for a few years as I'm raising my children, and I have a 6th grader, 5th grader. Okay, yeah. Anyway, so I've worked with a quantum learning program, and it's a brain-based academic company, and this is to help student achievement. And so I've also worked with Parenting Magic, so under the principles of Dr. Glenn Latham, trying to help parents So hopefully this will be some very pertinent to what we're going through, especially with COVID-19. And the first quote that I have says, I believe the key to happiness is someone to love, something to do, and something to look forward to. And since Elvis is the king, I thought he would, this is good advice for us right now. So I wanted to share a couple things that my kids' parents or my kids' teachers have done that I think were just excellent. And that last part of the quote, it says something to look forward to. So you see the kid on the left, my son was in a talent show for his class, and they were supposed to record a little something and then send it in to the teacher, and they had a talent show. So he rode his bike off of a little bike off of the dock into water, and that was his talent. And he was so excited about that and was really looking forward to that. And then another thing that my son's second grade teacher did that I really liked is she had shares on her Zoom meetings, and he had told the class, I'm going to share my new Lego police station. And so he told me every day, Mom, 4 days until my Zoom meeting. Mom, 3 days until my Zoom meeting. And he was so excited until he could meet with his class to show his little Lego set. So I thought that was really cute. Just as a little reminder, we're all going through kind of a crazy time right now. And I hope that we can all be present in this moment. I know we have stresses and things going on. And so I hope even for the next 20 minutes, if we can put those aside and really focus, and so we can get some good strategies for our students and for our kids that can really help them. So if we can all kind of do that ourselves. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Jess, could you go on to the next slide there? Okay, so the first one is to set clear expectations. So effective teachers will set clear expectations. And I just wanted to run through a few ideas on how to set clear expectations for teachers. One idea is that I like some teachers are recording a morning video so the kids know what to do the next day. And so it says everything, and the child wakes up, they click on when they wake up, and then their teacher is telling them, this is what's happening for today. So another one is that I like that parents and teachers are doing, or not, excuse me, not parents, but teachers, they check in with the whole class every morning. And then if the kids feel good, they can leave the meeting, but if they want to stick around for questions or whatever, but then there are clear expectations right at the beginning of the day. One thing that's really helpful for, I asked some kids, what is helpful for them during this time? And they said routines are really helpful so we know what's coming up. This week we're focusing on grammar. Next week we're focusing on this. But then they know, and then a daily routine is really helpful for them. Another one that is helpful is for a teacher to schedule meetings with their students in smaller groups, especially for those reserved students that maybe don't ask questions to the whole class, but they can ask those questions because they only have 3 other students with them. So that helps the students and teachers stay in contact a little bit better too. And I like what some teachers have said. They said, I'm here from 8 to 2:30 every day. Please come talk to me. We need to set that expectation that every question you have, I'm here, I want to get back to you. And I know some teachers have felt overwhelmed, so maybe they haven't been getting back to the emails of the parents, and that's where parents are getting frustrated. And so a problem that could have been squashed in the very first place has now been 3 weeks later, they've been not doing the essays correctly or whatever. So that's part of the communication. Number 2 that I put on the slide, to have the clear communication. Parents can be frustrated, and they also don't know, do the teachers check their work? Do the parents check their work? Who's supposed to do what? And so if we can be really open and have that makes it a little more clear. Okay, so right here, I love this book, The Mega System. It's talking about the educational system in total, the home, the school, every aspect of it. So if parents can be involved, and we also need to train the parents or help them know how to help their own children. And really now more than ever, parents and teachers need to come together to make a plan for each child. Maybe a child is struggling with their writing, and so a parent is saying, okay, I'm going to think outside the box a little bit, and maybe I'm going to have my child journal a little more, for example. An example from our own life, my oldest son, Apollo, is a little bit more reserved. And a few years ago, one of his teachers was like, he gave a presentation and he didn't even look at the class. He looked sideways. He didn't even look at the class. And I knew in general he was a little nervous to be in big crowds. And so over the years, we've been working on this. He started selling cookies and made his own cookie business 4 years ago. And at the end of each time, he would go take his cookies to the people. I would say, did you look him in the eye? Did you say thank you? And little by little, he's become more confident to give presentations. And even this week, we gave a little class, just my husband and I gave a little class on how to give a talk. And so we talked about that. We watched a couple videos. All of my kids wrote down a little talk. Throughout the week, we've had them practice with us. We've had them make sure that they give good eye contact. And then this Sunday, we're going to have little lessons given by my children. And so that's kind of an example I wanted to give. The teacher gave some feedback of not being a good presenter, and how can we now incorporate that? And so there's got to be a lot of, again, outside of the box thinking to help our kids with that. So,
Robyn, can I ask a question? And I'm sorry
yeah.
if I advanced the slide too quickly. I did not.
You're good. You're good. You're good.
So
yeah.
with your approach to parenting and you're teaching your kids presentation skills and having them practice, what kind of introduced you to using your teacher techniques for your kids? Like, was it somebody who you kind of are modeling after, or are these things that you just feel are valuable and so you want your kids to know?
I think a lot of people just say they rely on school, like they're going to get what they need from school. I'm kind of done. But I knew from the beginning that I wanted to play kind of a little bit of a bigger role. And so even at school this past year, I've gone in and said, hey, is it okay if I start a high level or higher reading book club? And so I've been going in every week, and I take the kids that are really good readers, and we do a book club. So I think a little bit comes from public school. All my kids go to public school, but I also work with a lot of homeschooled kids, and it's kind of fun to see how they use different resources. And so now I go in and say, hey, is it okay if my son Apollo takes off? He's not doing band. Can he go in and volunteer or help the first graders? Because I knew he needed some leadership skills. And so I think seeing kind of that whole child approach where we can use different things kind of helped to be able to go in and change it up a little bit, think outside the box. And our teachers here have been so awesome to let me come in. I'm their art docent and do different things. So I don't know. I think that's kind of what helped me, is just to say, hey, they need to be a little bit better at a presenter, or they need to work on their soccer skills. So how can we do that? How can we facilitate that, not only at school, but also at home? Does that kind of answer what you're thinking, Jess?
Totally. Such a great response. Thanks.
All right, let's go on to the next slide. And this one is about social interaction. And they found that the better the students can bond with their teachers, the better academically they'll do. So let's go on to the next slide. So these are just some questions for our teachers as we're writing curriculum, as we're doing this for our kids. So it says, how can I make sure my students are reaching their benchmarks? And I actually just had a parent call me the other day and just frustrated. I know my son is smart and does well, but I just feel like I don't know where he's missing out, what's falling through the cracks. And I feel like this is kind of what parents are a little bit concerned about. So as parents and as teachers, if we can address those issues, you know, we're covering this, and talk with the parents a little bit, because they just have some fears that, okay, they're going to be done with the 8th grade and I don't know if everything's been covered or whatever. So if we can help the parents feel better about that. Okay, the next one, it says, how can I add interest to what I'm teaching? And that we should be asking ourselves no matter what the teaching is. But next one, how can I tap into the skill set of parents and my community to help in my teaching? I love this one. My dad and I talk about education. We always do. For years and years we have. He was the acting director for the Bureau of Indian Education and over all those schools. And I called him to talk about this pandemic teaching. And he says, you know, this is a really great time for teachers to tap into the community. I mean, we have microbiologists, we have artists that are experts in their fields, and they can come to Zoom meetings, they can help teach. Even some of the parents are into chemistry, they're scientists, and maybe they can do a little science experiment either on Zoom meetings or bring them into the classroom. It depends on what that looks like next year. But we can really tap into a lot of our community, and even especially with Zoom, maybe somebody has a sister that's an artist, you know, across the country, and they can come teach their art students how to draw an eye or something. So I thought that was really good advice from my dad. All right, let's go to the next one. And I love this one. So our parents set the mood in the home. And I love this. What messages are we sending to our children? Are we saying, I'm so stressed, this is such a stressful time? Or are we saying, oh, I'm excited that I'll get to see you more if we're doing it more from home? I'm so glad I get to see you more. I used to be a chemistry teacher for 5 years, and I had so many of my students, before class even began, they would come in and they would say, oh, my mom hated chemistry, or this is going to be the worst class. My parents said it's pretty bad. And so I used to think, why are parents doing that to me? Because they're sabotaging me. I haven't even started teaching yet. So we want to set that precedence in the home, that to be more peaceful, and instead of panicking, let's plan ahead. So instead of getting that stressed out feeling that we don't want to give to our children. My friend is a dental hygienist, and she said they're still doing emergency procedures and stuff, and she had a lady come in. She says, my 6-year-old twins are so stressed. They're so worried they're going to get the coronavirus. And that obviously comes from the parents, and just to be, you know, careful about what we say and how we're feeling about this certain situation. So, okay. So next one says, how can our parents set their children up for success? I want to show a couple of things that we do in our very own home, and this is what we've done during the pandemic that has helped our children. So you see our to-do list. It is nothing fancy. I wrote it up in just a minute, but every day the kids look at this. It's just taped up in the hallway. So they have to do their schoolwork, their chores, and then you can see that I crossed off. Once we got our house pretty organized, then now we're working on our gardens, and there were a ton of weeds. So now every day they have to pick a bunch of weeds. So they have to do all of that before, especially, I don't know if this is true for everyone, but in our family, they are spending hours less on where they would go to school for 6 hours. They are now spending hours less doing their work at home, and then they have this extra time. So I want to make sure that they're using their time well. So they have a big to-do list, and I know a lot of parents are a little bit concerned right now, especially with parents that have to work from home. They're worried about their jobs, keeping their employees, and having this big to-do list kind of helps everybody kind of stay on schedule and kind of have everybody work as a team. I just wanted to show my chore chart too. Some kind of chore chart is so nice for parents, because then they have, you know, first of all, a chaotic house is a chaotic mind. And so if we can have some semblance of peace and cleanliness in the house, and then also the child knows, oh, I'm part of a team, I need to help keep the house clean. So let's go into the Harvard study one, Jess. So there was a longitudinal study, and it was actually one of the longest studies ever done. And they looked at what made these adults successful. And so they took successful adults. They looked back. I'm going to grab a drink really quick. All right, they looked back and they said, okay, what makes these people successful? And when they linked back, they found that these successful people all had chores when they were a child. And we actually did a webinar a while ago just on chores alone. There's so much research, but there's so many things that kids can learn from being part of the team, helping out, and they actually are more successful later in their careers as well. So I wanted to show, this is just a little smoothie bowl. Parents can have their kids do a lot of things. They can assign them dinners at nights, especially again, those that are working and trying to keep their companies afloat. Kids can do meal time. They can help keep the house clean. My daughter did dessert for us this Sunday night. We have a Sunday night dessert every Sunday. So really we need to enlist our kids in all that we're doing. So I'm working on painting our doors and stuff in our house. And so I had my youngest, she's 5, she undid all the screws. And so that was her way to help me out. But kids can help with laundry. They can help with everything because, you know, it is a kind of a crazier, busier time. Also, if the kids are home more often, they're not collaborating as much in their schools. And so this is good, I think, for collaborating skills and learning these things still while they're at their home. So, all right, Jess, you want to go to the next one? Okay. So I talked a little bit about this, just focusing on the whole child, just when you asked me earlier about how we can do that with our kids. And for me, again, sometimes we put so much on our teachers and we feel like, okay, we can kind of take a break now because, you know, maybe they're taking sports and doing school and we can kind of take a break as parents. But, you know, if we think of our children and we think, okay, what are the areas that my son or daughter needs improvement? Do they need help setting goals? Do they need help being kind to other people? And I think this time is kind of a gift. It's kind of this special time that we can focus on our kids and maybe kind of an out of the box kind of way. And so during this pandemic time, we talked about as a family, before the quarantine happened, we said, okay, we're going to go through this quarantine. And I had everyone make a list. What do you want to be? We could be the exact same at the end of this quarantine, having learned nothing. Or with your list, we can grow and we can help other people. Maybe you want to set your own goals. And so they all wrote a little list out of what they wanted to do. For me, it's really important to me. The academic stuff is great, but even more important, I really want my kids to be kind. And so we've spent a lot of time Clorox wiping puzzles to take to other people, to elderly people, to kids their own age. This picture on the left, we decided that we were going to picket for peace and hope. So all of my kids worked on signs, and then we took it out to a really busy intersection in our town, and we held them up. And if you can read them, it says things like love is the answer, spread kindness. And we held those up, and people were so awesome. They were honking. One guy gave us $20 and said, take your kids out for ice cream. Thanks for doing this. Someone else went to a strawberry stand and bought us some strawberries. So it was just a really good experience for my kids. So again, just focusing on what does my child need in general. And parents are going to take a little bit more of an active role in that right now in doing that. So I think it's really good for teachers and parents to sit down, set some goals. These are the things that we need to work on. So, and on the right, here's a picture of my daughter. Her goal was she wanted to get on a competitive sports team, and they're not practicing right now. So she set a goal for 2 hours every day. She was going to practice her sports, and she she roped her siblings in too, and sometimes her older brother will go out with her and practice. But she's done that for 2 hours for 6 days a week for a month now. So I kind of like that idea. If we could say, okay, this time is a little different. What can we focus on as far as academics, but other things too? And I saw, and I was reading over a lot of the questions from a lot of the people that are coming to that are at the webinar, and a lot of the questions had things to do with motivation. How do we keep the kids motivated, and things like setting goals and having things to look forward to. And I'll talk a little bit about that in just a minute, of ways that can really help. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. All right, so one thing that has been super helpful for my family, because they don't love everything that they're doing. I found out my son wasn't as super excited about some essays that he was doing, and so he thought that was kind of optional. And so I found out a little bit later that he needed to be doing some essays. So just to get through the minutia and through some of the things they're not as excited about, if we can say things like, hey guys, at the end of today, we're gonna do, and just, you can fill in the blank, something small. So sometimes we will say, we're gonna play Monopoly Deal at the end of this, or we're gonna play this train games that we love. Or for our little kids, it could be, we're gonna read this book. Or for our older kids, we're gonna go for a bike ride. Or if we just don't have the time, we say, what are you gonna do that's fun at the end of this? And they can set their own goals. At the end of today, when they finish their work, they get to do just something really small, and it can be, of course, really cheap. And then we try to kind of break it up, is to have one thing every Saturday that the kids look forward to, and that we look forward to. I mean, we're kind of going crazy too. We're working from home, and it's been a little bit different. My husband also is working from home most of the time. So if we have one thing every Saturday that we enjoy, it's really been helpful. So this is a picture of our family. We took a rafting trip, and with my sister's family, and we looked forward to that. We drove our bikes over the Golden Gate Bridge the other day. That was really fun. So just things that kind of break it up. We're going for a bike ride this weekend. We're going to go on a hike the next weekend. So just, if we can have something to look forward to, and this is a great strategy for teachers to give to parents. So just say, okay, just have the kids focus on that fun thing at the end. And I know my daughter does that at the end of her 2-hour soccer time. If she can get through that every time, she tries to do something really small, and that's kind of fun at the end of it. So we're all motivated by something. All right. And then the next one, I wanted to just share some ideas of self-guided activities that are non-electronic. I mean, and someone mentioned that earlier as I was reading the comments, of just getting the kids off screens, because they're really on screens a lot more than they used to be with all the meetings and just their daily grind. So if we, and also parents are saying, hey, I don't have time to teach or time to be with my kids as much as they need me, but they also don't want them on a screen. This top left picture was sent by a parent. She is getting she wants to be a speech pathologist. And then her husband's also working. They don't have a lot of, this was over quarantine. She's trying to figure out something her kids could do where she couldn't be with them as much and they weren't on screens. So she made an art wall, had her kids make an art wall, and they have been making a ton of art over the quarantine. And again, she didn't have the time to spend with them. The top right picture is just a ton of erasers. My kids collect erasers, and they've been building little forts and buildings out of their erasers. And this is a tip I would give to parents, is let there be areas in your house where you just let it be a little bit creative, I'll call it, instead of chaotic. But this was actually in our very front room, and it was a little bit messy for like 2 weeks. And I thought, you know what, that they are playing with those every single day. So I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna let my hair down a little bit and create some places where my kids will have fun. The bottom picture, the bottom right, my girls like to dress up. And so my oldest girl got my youngest girl, she did her makeup, she did her hair, and then they took a bunch of pictures. And that really can take a lot of time if you give your kids a camera and let them take pictures. I know my boys have been out there doing jumps and been outside, and people have been videotaping them, and so that's taken a lot of time for them. Not everywhere can people be outside, but if kids can be outside or go in the backyard, it's great to kick them out and let them explore. And I think it's so great to let kids be bored. So, and I'm seeing that someone, so Bill just posted some ideas. So I think though there's so many things online. There's a girl and a glue gun that I like. We just did an activity with her stuff. That there's so much out there, and resources from parents that there's just so much out there that's so helpful for them. The next bottom left one is if you Google poses for 2 people or yoga poses for 2 people, there's a bunch, and that can keep your kids busy for a long time doing these different poses. And so there's so many, especially right now, there's free dance classes, free all sorts of different classes. They want people to see what's out there, so they're giving free promotional things, free piano lessons, all sorts of different things right now that the parents can take advantage of. So, oh, I wanted to say, I forgot on one part. One strategy for parents is we think that they are so great at doing, well, I thought my kids already knew to make to-do lists, but I swear it's been like 4 times in a row. We were like, Parks, are you on your Zoom meeting? It was like 11:15, and his Zoom meeting's at 11 on Wednesdays and Fridays. And he was like, oh no. And so we were like, oh my goodness. So we have found that a to-do list works really well. They can take the list that the teacher gives them online, write it down, or just print it out, and then they can but with their hand, just check it off as they go, and it really helps them. And then they write, okay, today I have a Zoom meeting at 11, because they're really becoming a little bit more in charge of their academics right now. And so if we can help them with a little checkoff list, we almost have to teach them how to be organized in a whole new way right now. So, all right, the next slide is, I have a sweet neighbor, an elderly neighbor. I went over to check on her, and I said, hey, we're still going to the store every once in a while. We can pick things up for you. And she was so sweet. She said, Robyn, we're all in this together. And she said, Robyn, if you need anything, we're pretty stocked up. I mean, the sweetest lady, she's not even going to the store that much. And she's like, if you need anything, I bet I have it. Come over and check. And so, and I told her a couple of the worries I had and things that were going on. And again, she repeated that to me. She said, Robyn, we're all in this together. She kept saying that. So let's go ahead and, oh, I just wanted to say on that, if we can really send that message to our kids that we have hope, and if worst case scenario, hey, this is going to go on. It might even be kind of hard for a little while, but we can do hard things. And someone just asked, do you have information and resources for high school students? And okay, oh yeah, 2 people. So with the high school students, really these apply the exact same way. So I know a parent just talked to me yesterday. Her daughter is very unmotivated. She's on TikTok all the time, and she's getting behind in her classes and feels like, oh, I can just kind of hand it in all the time. And so again, it goes back to those very same, this applies to everyone. It goes back to the same thing, clear expectations. The kids need to know when to turn in their work, or parents. They need the exact same thing. So if we're talking about a preschooler to a high schooler, all these things relate to all different ages, but with helping with being organized, motivation, all these things, if we can have the parents help and then also have the kids help. And again, with the high school students, they're older, and so they can make more of a teacher-student plan where the parent doesn't have to take as much of a role, where hopefully by the time they're in high school, they're better organized, but again, they might need some more of those strategies as well. And I think it's really good as a teacher in general that we tell our students, hey, this is how to read a chemistry textbook. And as a chemistry teacher, I spent a lot of time. This is how you take notes for a science class. This is how you read a science chemistry book. So sometimes we just figure that our students know how to make to-do lists, how to stay organized, and they don't. They don't as often as we think they would. So it's really important for us to teach how to learn along with teaching. And so especially at this pandemic time, tell our students, hey, your homework is due or your work is due every Friday at this time. But we just need to be really clear with our high school students. And again, the parent will probably just have a little bit of a lesser role than working with the younger kids. But those same things apply to our high school students. I hope that answered your question. Let's see. Okay, so talking about the impoverished and the working in the urban areas, I just got that question. What I wanted to do today is not an overall, this is all the ideas, because of course in some areas they won't be able to go play in their backyard or go on a hike or do these things, or maybe the parents are working full time. So I'm hoping that I gave you, just as we are beginning to start this, these questions and what we're doing, I hope there are some strategies that can help all different. I mean, again, my dad, I talked with my dad, and he works with the Native Americans. And right now they're with COVID-19, they're having a really hard time. They're being struck with that. And so whether or not they're impoverished, I can't say that word. Whether or not they're impoverished, sorry, but, or whatever their houses look like or whatever they're doing, these are just some ideas that we can give to our parents, and then hopefully they can take that and go with it. And it is hard when we don't have the parental involvement as much, but we can still, when teachers are working with their kids, they can still teach them, this is how to be organized. This is when, and we do the best that we can. And hopefully this is not a time that will last forever, but we do the best we can with what we have right now. And we can still, when we're talking to them, we can still be positive. We can, by the way we're talking to them, give them hope as much as we can. So
just
hopefully.
To jump in really quick, Robyn. I
yeah.
think the chore chart applies K through 12 or preschool through any age, making sure if chores play a crucial role, as that Harvard study is saying, then I think one strategy a school district can introduce to parents over the summer to get in routines is to help teach children to be organized and maybe start a chore chart. So in the fall, if we're staying online, which if we're worried about the second wave, it looks like of COVID-19, the second wave of COVID-19, having the foundation of chores every day, of having a method of organization, plus small and large things to look forward to based on the needs of each student. Those strategies are really useful, and a school district can adopt and help pull parents into the conversation. I think this is going to be the first year where schools need to start considering parents as employees, just like they would teachers. We're all working together to fit the needs of the students, and chores, something to look forward to. And I like how you're also mentioning we're not passing our stresses on to our kids. So I think really useful strategies that'll look different in every area, but really great foundational ideas.
Yeah, and I think you have to, going back to the basics, goal setting routines, organizational skills. Those are the things that I'm focused on. I just listened to a podcast yesterday about setting goals and how they need to be super tiny. And so really that applies to our educators, to the parents, to everyone. If we can start being organized and setting up these routines or these systems right now, especially during this pandemic time, but really in general, we should be doing this, but it can help. Again, I said that earlier, but planning instead of panicking. So I like this quote, everything you do sends a message. Our principal is so positive. I had to speak with her about an issue. So I called, and it wasn't a very good conversation that I was really looking forward to having, but I called her and she got on and she said, "Oh, hi, Robyn, this is Amy." You know, she didn't say, "This is Dr. So-and-so." I mean, just the way she went about it, she was so positive. I told her my concern. We talked about it. And this has been the third time I've had to go with her for different concerns over the years. And every time it has had a very positive outcome. She's very positive in the way. And she says, we don't know what this year is going to look like. And so, she could definitely get on the phone and act very stressed. And we don't know what's going on, Robyn. We don't even know. I mean, how can I address your concern when I don't even know what's going on right now? But instead it was like, thank you for coming to me. So she's setting this precedence that I want you to come to me. I want you to come to me with your problems. But it's very clear. She's very clear and very positive. And I leave the phone feeling like, oh, okay, this lady's with it and I'm ready to go on with my day. And this was also when I was reading in the Mega System book about school education, they said, kids want a teacher that is with it, that has a with itness, they had in quotes, and they talked about different research on that. But they want to feel that somebody is taking care of things, that they are clear, they are consistent, they have routines, and that they're going to be positive and do the best they can. So.
Thanks, Robyn.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on and talking about, so I know so Robyn has a lot of different roles. What we wanted to do was address how parents could be thinking, how administrators could be thinking towards parents. We were combining Parenting Magic and Steady.org right now to try to help districts include parents in the conversation. And so we have, let's see, maybe let me get to the next page. What we'll do, we're going to wrap up. Sam's going to talk for a second, then Kelly's going to talk about SubSolutions for a second. And then we'll have Jeff record his portion of the webinar and we'll edit all of these together. Send out the link so you can get the statistics at the first. All right, Sam, do you want to talk about the package available?
Yeah, absolutely. You hear me okay?
Yes.
So the skills training suite that we offer, the real purpose of this is to provide districts with additional tools and assets they can use within their entire district, instead of just having the sub-skills online training that we typically do for districts with their substitute teacher training. We've created packages for teachers that are unique, for districts that are unique to them, allowing you to have additional courses and assets to provide to additional teachers, your paraprofessionals, your specialists, even your full-time teachers. And then along with that, like on the Pro Skills training suite there, we also include our Parenting Magic course that is specific to what we've been talking about today. We also include the remote teacher training. Many of you probably have seen this already. We have a remote teacher training program course that helps with teachers to help them understand and navigate the intricacies of remote teaching and remote learning. And so there's just some training suites that we offer districts with an additional fill rate course or fill rate academy for districts that we can help them with their substitute training and substitute management programs. So it's just really an asset to you guys.
Great. Thanks, Sam, for covering that. All right, let's go to Kelly, if you'll talk about SubSolutions.
Hello, I hope everyone can hear me okay. It sounds like we had a problem with Sam cutting out too, because I lost him for a little bit. But I wanted to just briefly tell you we have moved our SubSolutions conference to make it online. We'll be taking the same week that we were going to be having it in Park City, but having it online instead. So the week of July 6th through the 10th, we will have 2 hours each day that we will have different people that are participants in the conference take part in the presentations. So it won't just be me or Jeff or Jessica, the same people that always present, but we will actually have some of your fellow educators and fellow administrators from different districts that will be presenting on some really important topics in relation to not just substitute teaching, but also to some of the things that we're facing right now in the midst of this pandemic. We know that there are schools that will be starting back in the fall, just like normal, but probably most schools will be starting, you know, with some different phases as far as, you know, getting the kids back. So there may be some people still learning from home. There may be some people learning just from home for certain classes or for part of the day or week. So we want to just cover a lot of different things, and we hope that you'll take part in that with us. If you'll go to our steady.org/subsolutions/ page to you know, to that link, you can see not only about the conference, but also if you go about halfway down the page, there's information about if you'd like to be a presenter for us. So please, if you think you have something that you could share with your fellow administrators at this conference, we'd love to hear more about it. So please go and fill out that call for presenters form and submit that to us as well. So if you have any questions about it, you're welcome to reach out to me, Kelley, Kelley, @steady.org, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions about that.
Great. Thank you for attending our webinar today with beginning the conversation of how to work with parents. We also always want to remind you, you have a pool of substitute teachers who are eager and interested in work. If you need additional hands working with students more specifically, if you need things taken around, please consider using your substitute teachers who already have passed background checks, who have already been trained, who are familiar with your district. Please use them and consider them maybe a first responders for any needs that need to be met when you have you see additional needs for students on how to help them more individually. Please consider using your substitute teachers. We hope to see you at SubSolutions. We hope you'll reach out if you have questions and what topics you want covered at SubSolutions. And thank you again for attending. We'll get the full webinar posted probably by tomorrow at steady.org/webinars. All right, you have a good day.